Claire Morton and Alan Pierce were ordinary on paper. She, a quiet bookstore clerk. He, a man with a criminal past, but one fateful night on a lonely highway would turn their lives into a deadly collision, a chase that no one saw coming, and a secret that would shock an entire town. It was one of those quiet nights when nothing seemed out of place. The streets of Pine Ridge stretched empty under a pale moon, and the hum of Officer Daniel Harris's cruiser was the only sound breaking the stillness. He'd been patrolling for hours, his headlights sweeping over the same old streets, familiar signs, and darkened houses. It was a small town with small problems: speeding, noise complaints, the occasional drunk driver heading home too late. But nights like this one made him restless. They were too calm, too quiet, and that kind of quiet always made him suspicious. Just before midnight, Harris turned onto Highway 27, a long stretch of road that cut through miles of forest. The air was cold enough to fog the edges of his windshield. He reached for his coffee, lukewarm by now, and took a sip as his radio murmured static. Then he saw it, headlights up ahead, moving unevenly. A dark blue sedan drifted slightly across the center line, then corrected itself. He watched for a moment, hoping it was just a distracted driver. But when the car swayed again, the tires scraping the yellow paint, he knew it wasn't just a casual mistake. Harris flipped on his lights. The red and blue beams flashed across the trees as he eased forward. The sedan didn't stop right away. It slowed down, then picked up speed again, as if the driver couldn't decide whether to pull over or run. That hesitation set off an uneasy feeling in his gut. He called it impossible DUI, heading northbound, not stopping. The dispatcher confirmed his location, and he waited for the driver to respond. Minutes passed. The car kept moving, staying just ahead of him, not fast enough to be a full chase, but not slow enough to stop either. Harris spoke into the radio again, asking for backup. Something about the situation didn't fit the usual pattern. Most drunk drivers either panicked and stopped or floored it and took off. This one drove with an eerie kind of purpose. When the sedan finally pulled over to the side of the road, Harris approached cautiously, flashlight in hand. The windows were tinted, and he couldn't see much inside. He tapped the rear window once, twice, no movement. He took a step closer and noticed the driver's seat was empty. Confused, he aimed his flashlight toward the trees and saw faint footprints leading away from the car. Then the sound of an engine roared. The sedan jerked forward, tires spinning gravel into the air. Harris jumped back as the car sped off again, taillights vanishing into the night. Heart pounding, he ran back to his cruiser and hit the siren full blast. The quiet night was gone now, replaced by flashing lights and the high-pitched wail cutting through the dark. As the chase began, a strange realization crept over him. This wasn't just someone running from a ticket. Whoever was behind that wheel didn't want to be caught, not tonight, not ever. And deep down, Harris could feel it. This was the beginning of something much bigger than a routine traffic stop. The dispatcher ran the plate while Officer Harris stayed close behind the blue sedan, keeping his headlights steady on the vehicle. The report came back almost instantly. The car was registered to a woman named Claire Morton, 32 years old, address listed in Pine Ridge, no criminal history, no outstanding warrants, not even a parking ticket. Harris frowned at the details glowing on his dashboard screen. A driver like that didn't fit the scene unfolding in front of him. Her record looked spotless, the kind of background you'd expect from a school teacher or librarian, not someone running from a police cruiser in the middle of the night. He radioed in again, asking for confirmation. Everything checked out the same. Claire Morton, local resident, no reason to flee. But the car kept its pace, holding steady at 65, weaving just enough to keep him guessing. Harris watched the taillights flicker through the mist ahead of him, and a strange unease started to build. It wasn't the reckless speed that bothered him, it was the precision. Whoever was driving knew the road, knew the turns, and wasn't panicking. It was almost as if she had planned this route. The chase moved out of the highway stretch and into the countryside where the trees grew close together, bending over the road like dark walls. Harris kept his distance, not wanting to push the driver into doing something dangerous, but every time he tried to close in, the sedan slipped farther ahead. He caught glimpses of it through the branches, the headlights flashing like a signal in the dark. Dispatch patched through more information. Claire worked at a small bookstore downtown, lived alone, paid her bills on time, and had no family in the area. No known boyfriend, no friends listed on her emergency contacts. Just a quiet woman who kept to herself. That description didn't fit with what Harris was seeing. He felt as if he were chasing a ghost, someone who had erased herself from her own life but left the car behind as bait. Then, just when he thought she might be running out of options, the sedan slowed down. Harris eased off the accelerator, ready to step out and make an arrest. The car's brake lights glowed red for a long second, casting an eerie glow through the fog. He thought she might finally stop. But then the lights went out and the sedan swerved sharply onto an unmarked dirt road that cut into the forest. The sudden turn caught him off guard, but he followed. Branches scraped against his car as the siren wailed through the trees. The road was narrow, barely wide enough for two vehicles, and he could see fresh tire tracks kicking up dust ahead. He radioed for backup, giving directions as best he could, but the connection crackled and faded the deeper he went. After several minutes, the road opened up slightly, revealing a clearing by an old wooden bridge that hadn't been used in years. The sedan came to an abrupt stop near the edge. Its headlights were still on, the driver's door open, but no one was inside. The engine idled quietly, like a heartbeat waiting to stop. Harris approached carefully, flashlight scanning the area. There was no movement, no sign of anyone nearby, just the echo of the engine and the steady hum of water beneath the bridge. For a moment, he stood still, trying to piece it together. Claire Morton had vanished into the night without a trace, leaving behind only her car and more questions than answers. The night had started with routine, but by now, every instinct told him this was just the beginning of something much darker. The forest was silent except for the low rumble of the idling engine. The blue sedan sat crooked near the edge of the bridge, one tire half buried in mud. Officer Harris scanned the interior with his flashlight, expecting to see signs of a struggle, but the seats were neat, the dashboard spotless, and the faint scent of perfume hung in the air. The keys were still in the ignition, and a purse sat on the passenger seat. Inside were a wallet, some cash, and an ID that matched the name from dispatch Claire Morton. Everything about the scene felt wrong. People who ran from police didn't leave their wallets behind. They didn't walk away into the dark without even turning off the car. He radioed for assistance, but the signal was weak. Static crackled, fading in and out. The nearest unit was still 20 minutes away. Harris circled the car slowly, his boots sinking into the soft earth. That's when he noticed the footprints, two sets, not one. One looked smaller, likely belonging to Claire, but the other was larger, deeper, heading in the same direction. They both led away from the car toward the forest trail that disappeared into the trees. Following the prints carefully, he kept his flashlight low, scanning for movement. The air grew colder and the sound of running water echoed somewhere ahead. The tracks stopped near a patch of disturbed soil where the ground looked scuffed, as if someone had fallen or struggled. But there was no sign of anyone. Harris's breath came out in short clouds as he turned back toward the car, unease creeping up his spine. By the time backup arrived, the engine had gone quiet. Two other officers joined him, and together they began a detailed search of the vehicle. It didn't take long before one of them called out from the back. The trunk was slightly open, just enough to see something dark inside. When they lifted it fully, the flashlight beams froze over the contents. A jacket, torn and covered in dried blood, lay crumpled next to a small canvas bag. Inside the bag were pieces of jewelry, necklaces, rings, and watches, each with tiny tags from a local pawn shop. The discovery changed everything. The jewelry matched items recently reported stolen from a store 2 towns away. The break-in had happened only 2 nights earlier, and the thieves had left few clues. The sight of it here, in the car of a woman with no criminal history, made no sense. The officers exchanged glances, each trying to process what they were seeing. Harris opened the glove compartment and found a map of the county with several routes highlighted in red marker, one of which led directly to this forest road. It was no longer a question of a traffic violation or a frightened driver. Someone had been running from something or someone, and it wasn't the police. Claire Morton's life, once described as ordinary and uneventful, was beginning to look like a carefully constructed disguise. The second set of footprints, the stolen jewelry, and the blood-stained jacket all pointed to a story much bigger than what anyone had expected. The quiet forest around them suddenly felt alive, heavy with secrets. Something had happened here, and the truth, whatever it was still hiding in the shadows just beyond the beam of their flashlights. The investigation into Claire Morton's disappearance quickly grew beyond the local police department. The evidence found in the car had raised too many questions for a simple explanation. Detectives from the county arrived before dawn, sealing off the forest road and collecting every scrap of evidence they could find. The footprints were photographed, tire impressions cast, and the jewelry cataloged for identification. But while the officers combed the area, there was one detail that didn't make sense: the direction of the second set of prints. They led away from the bridge, but then looped back toward the highway, as if whoever had been there wasn't fleeing but following. Traffic cameras from the highway were pulled for review. At first, the footage showed nothing out of the ordinary, just a few passing cars and trucks moving through the night. But about 15 minutes before the chase began, one of the cameras captured a faint shape in the distance behind Claire's sedan. A dark pickup truck, headlights off, trailing her car just far enough to stay hidden. The discovery changed the focus of the entire case. This wasn't random. Someone had been following her even before Officer Harris turned on his lights. Detectives traced the truck through every available camera along the route. It appeared at several points, always keeping a deliberate distance. When Harris had started the pursuit, the truck vanished for a while, only to reappear near one of the back roads leading into the forest. Whoever was behind the wheel knew what they were doing. The license plate, once enhanced from the footage, revealed a name that added a new layer of tension: Alan Pierce. Pierce was a name the department hadn't heard in years, but his record was extensive. He'd served time for burglary, armed robbery, and possession of stolen property. His last known address was in the next county over. 3 years earlier, he'd been arrested during a failed jewelry store heist. His partner at the time had escaped and was never caught. The case had gone cold, and the missing partner's identity had never been confirmed. Until now, detectives began connecting the pieces. Claire Morton wasn't just a quiet bookstore clerk. Her name, her job, her life in Pine Ridge, all of it might have been a cover. After the failed robbery years ago, she must have changed everything, disappearing into a new identity while Pierce served his sentence. Now that he was out, he had tracked her down. The jewelry in her trunk, likely part of another job, suggested that she had tried to start over but hadn't completely escaped her past. As investigators studied the camera footage frame by frame, they noticed something chilling. When Officer Harris had pulled behind the sedan on Highway 27, the truck had been parked half a mile back, engine running, as if waiting for the chase to end. It never intervened, never came closer, but it followed until the very last stretch of road leading into the forest. Then both vehicles disappeared from view. The story the evidence told was clear enough to send a cold ripple through everyone involved. Claire had been running, not from the flashing lights of a police cruiser, but from the man who had once been her partner in crime. Alan Pierce had followed her through the night, determined to finish what had begun years before. And somewhere between the empty highway and the dark woods of Pine Ridge, the two paths that had split apart were finally about to collide once again. The next morning began with a call no officer wanted to receive. A truck driver passing through Highway 12 reported a wreck near the old quarry road. The vehicles twisted together, smoke still rising from the wreckage. When responders arrived, they found what remained of a blue sedan and a black pickup truck crumpled in the middle of the narrow stretch. The collision looked violent, almost deliberate, the kind of impact that couldn't have been caused by a mistake. Metal was folded in on itself, glass scattered across the pavement like frost, and the air carried the sharp smell of gasoline and burnt rubber. Firefighters worked quickly to extinguish what was left of the flames, revealing the full extent of the damage. The sedan's front end was completely destroyed, the driver trapped inside. The pickup truck was no better, its hood crushed into the windshield. Both drivers were pronounced dead at the scene. It didn't take long for investigators to recognize the vehicle's Claire Morton S. blue sedan and Alan Pierce S. black pickup. The two people who had eluded them for the past 24 hours had met again, only to end their lives in a head-on collision that looked more like a conclusion than an accident. The crash reconstruction team spent hours documenting the scene. Skid marks told a story that words couldn't. The pickup had accelerated into the wrong lane, closing the distance at high speed. The sedan had not swerved or braked. Instead, it had stayed straight, as if Claire had seen what was coming and made the decision not to turn away. The investigators suspected she had realized there was no escape. The forest, the chase, the pursuit, it all led here. Inside Claire's car, they found a torn envelope on the passenger seat containing several $1,000s in cash, a fake passport, and a bus ticket to another state. She'd been planning to disappear again, to vanish before Pierce could find her. But he had caught up with her before she had the chance. In the glove compartment was the same map with red routes marked across the county. The last line drawn ended near the quarry road where they had crashed. The truck told a different story. Among the debris, officers found a handgun, unfired, resting under the driver's seat. The safety was still on, as if Pierce hadn't planned to use it. There was also a small notebook with a list of names, places, and dollar amounts scribbled in rough handwriting. Claire's name appeared twice, underlined. The final note on the page read simply, "She owes me." When the investigation wrapped up, the conclusion was grim but clear. The collision had been intentional. Both vehicles had accelerated toward each other, neither showing signs of braking. The coroner's report confirmed what many already believed: this had been a final confrontation, not a chase gone wrong. The weight of unfinished crimes, betrayal, and years of running had come together in one violent instant. In the days that followed, Pine Ridge returned to its ordinary rhythm, but the memory of that night lingered. Locals passing by the stretch of Highway 12 would sometimes slow down, glancing at the small memorial that appeared at the roadside to simple crosses, one blue and one black. No one could say exactly what happened in the seconds before impact, but the story left behind painted its own ending. It was a reminder that no one truly outruns their past, and some collisions are written long before the wheels ever touch the road.